Hey guys, welcome back to Sacred Vedic Astrology. My name is Samantha and I am a professional Vedic sidereal astrologer. So today we're going to do a very interesting video lesson into how to analyze the 10th house of career to see success, to see how the career is going to perform in the Vedic astrological chart. We're going to look into the infamous Lana Del Rey because she has a really potent, really powerful 10th house, and obviously she's been vastly successful. She's reached the masses. She has had this really large, important career. So I think this will be a really important lesson in analysis on the career house. How do we see if it's going to be good? Is there more benefic? Is there more malefic influence? We're going to get into it today, and we're also going to look at the chart from Chandra Lagna, or moon as ascendant, as well too, to look further into the chart. This will be a really useful lesson for you guys in chart analysis of specific houses. Okay, so I've been doing these more like pinpointed videos so it can really stick in the mind, and I feel like you guys have really enjoyed these, so I enjoy doing them as well too. All right, so let us pull up Lana's chart and let us start with the planets that sit in the 10th house. So the way that we're going to analyze houses in Vedic astrology is first the planet in the house, planets in the house, the aspects on that house, and then how that house ruler is performing as well too. Okay, and then if we want to get extra information, we look into the D9, the D10 chart, and then we can also flip it from moon as the ascendant and read the 10th house from there as well. Okay, so let us look at Lana's chart, and let's start with the 10th house. So Lana has the moon in the 10th house, okay? So this is a classic fame producing or some sort of aspect of like notoriety in the career when the moon goes into the 10th house, because the moon is a high level benefic, right? We want to see, are there malefics or are there benefics in a house to see how well it's performing, right? So moon is in the 10th. That's already giving us a clue into the career that it can be successful, reach the masses, connect to women in some way. And that moon influence is going to be really positive for the 10th house, right? So not only is this moon in the 10th house, right, that's one strike for a successful, positive career. Here's another really important aspect, like a second strike for analysis, is the moon is in Cancer, where the moon naturally wants to sit. So this isn't like the moon is in Scorpio in the 10th house. Then it's like, okay, the moon is there, but the moon is debilitated in Scorpio. So we would get more mixed results. This is the moon in Cancer in the 10th house. So the moon is strong in the 10th. It's a great benefic. And then the moon sign is strong for the 10th house. It's where it wants to be, right? So that's two strikes of a positive influence towards the career. Okay. Now, this is really important. We always want to look to whatever is opposite of a house, right? So if we're analyzing the 10th house, we immediately have to go look at the 4th house, right? Because that's going to give a direct opposition of an influence, right? It's like 100% power aspect in Vedic astrology. So moon's in the 10th, moon is a benefic, it's strong, it's the masses, it's recognition, it's women, right? She does definitely have a special connection to women in her work and her career. I'm not going to say all, of her listeners are women, because that would not be true, but I do think she has a special connection to feminine energy and the experience of women in the work that she is creating, right? So those are the meanings of the moon or Manas in the 10th house. But more than anything, there's just an ability for someone to reach the masses, reach the public, because the moon is the public. And the moon in the 10th house also will show that whatever someone does in work or in career, they can just be well known for it. It doesn't mean that they're always going to be famous, right? It just means that there's going to be some aspect where they're good at what they do and they're known for it. Okay. So now we look to the opposite of the 10th house, and we go to the 4th house where we have Jupiter. So Jupiter is in Capricorn, right? So this would give some issues for the 4th house, right? Because Jupiter is debilitated in Capricorn. So, you know, some issues with the mother, some issues with family, right? And she does have a lot of issues with her mother as well in this lifetime. Okay, so some issues, right? It's still Jupiter, it's still a benefic, but it's debilitated. Okay. However, Jupiter is debilitated for the 4th, but Jupiter being in Capricorn is aspecting the 10th house of a sign that Jupiter loves to aspect, right? Jupiter loves Cancer, Pisces, Sagittarius. That's where Jupiter wants to naturally shine its energy. And now we have Jupiter aspecting Cancer in the 10th house, okay? So there's 3 strikes, right? Jupiter is now on the 10th. That's a great benefic. The moon is in the 10th. These are 2 benefic or positive planetary influences for the career. Now, another strike is that Jupiter is aspecting a sign that Jupiter likes to be in, right? So then there's another element of positive, benefic influence on the 10th house of career, right? So that's already a lot going on, right? That's already like all of these omens of a very successful career because we have 2 great benefics influencing the house of career and public image. Okay, so that's really, really powerful. And what I want you guys to understand is how important the sign aspect is, right? It's not Jupiter aspecting Gemini, right? Where it's like, okay, Jupiter doesn't love Gemini. It's Jupiter aspecting Cancer. Jupiter loves Cancer, the moon is in Cancer, the moon likes Cancer, right? So it's important to see the sign placements. Do they like where they're going? Do they like where they're aspecting? Okay, so that's already really powerful. And then the 10th ruler, because the 10th house is the moon, becomes the 10th house, right? So the 10th ruler is in the 10th house in its own sign, right? So now the 10th ruler is strong because it's its own sign placement. Another strike, powerful, strong. Okay. Now, here is a very important aspect of this as well, too, just to show you guys like true Vedic analysis. We're not going to ignore any influences or any aspects. So that's really, really positive for the career. So many strikes, right? However, we do get Saturn influencing the 10th. And I want to talk about this because I also think this is really important. So Saturn creates special aspects, right? It creates aspects houses 3, 7, and 10. So by its 10th aspect, Saturn is actually aspecting the 10th house of career as well too. So really benefic, really positive for the most part, but then we do get that little Saturn influence. And what I think is so fascinating about that, because it is like eerily spot on, is Saturn influencing the career would show delays, would show some blocks, would show like a really long path to get to the career success, right? So Saturn would bring a more slowed down energy towards the career, right? Saturn would also have some conflict in the career at certain points. Maybe there's an energy where there's not as much recognition. Maybe there's, again, blocks, delays to the career. And we could also predict, okay, Saturn's influencing the 10th. There might be career success later on, going into the late 20s, more so into the early 30s is when that career success would pick up. So Jupiter, moon, 2 great benefics, influence in the 10th ruler in its own sign. That's all great. Reaching the public, reaching the masses, connection to women. There's going to be this like emotional, sensitive, introspective sort of healing aspect to the career because that's also the moon in the 10th house as well too. But then we do also get some Saturnian influence. So in her career, I believe she would sing in bars for like 10 years before she got recognition. Maybe it was less than that, but it was a long time of her getting like no recognition whatsoever, right? And the reason I think that's important to talk about is because that's also an influence that's happening as well, right? We can't just ignore like the Saturn aspect, right? It's not like, oh, okay, Jupiter, moon, it's really benefic, it's really strong, reaching the masses, and Saturn's aspecting, but let's ignore the Saturn influence. We still have to take into account what Saturn is going to bring, right? So notoriously, even when she got success, which I think she was about 26, 27, when she started getting some momentum, right? Which is Saturn, right? That's approaching the Saturn return. That's getting into the late 20s, early 30s, which is when Saturn starts to develop in the chart, right? So we also get that Saturn, right? The career happens later. It took her like so long of hard work behind the scenes. She had a lot of rejection. She had a lot of criticism in her career. So that's also going to be that Saturn influence as well too, right? So she gets some, momentum, 26, about 27. And as she goes throughout her career, you know, we can recall she did that like SNL thing and it got so much backlash and so much criticism. And there was always these think pieces and articles about her that were more negative, right? So even though the career is going to be big and successful and has a lot of benefic, positive influence to reach the masses because of Jupiter aspecting the moon, Jupiter aspecting its own sign, the moon sitting in Cancer, these are really positive influences, we're also going to still get that Saturn as well too, right? The Saturn aspecting the 10th isn't going to just go away. It's still a part of the mix, right? So if you take all these influences and you actually analyze them together in this like cohesive way, that's when you're actually telling someone's life story, right? That's when you get those accurate, eerily accurate readings where someone's like, oh, that's so crazy because that's been my whole life story, right? So if we were looking at Lana's chart and she was a client, we would say, yeah, your career can be great. It can be successful. It can reach the masses. You can connect to women. It's going to be emotional, sensitive to some degree. We would also bring in that Saturn influence and say, but it might happen after like a very long road, a very long, slow path to get there. There might be some blocks, delays in the career. There might be not as much recognition as one would want, like that. And Saturn influencing the 10th house actually will usually give someone who wants a big career, right? Like they want to have that big successful career, but because it's Saturn, they also hold themselves back a lot and they can be insecure about the career as well too. So all of these different influences are happening and all of these different influences have played out in Lana's career, right? There's been criticism, slow path, lots of work, lots of hard work to get there, and didn't really pick up for her until going into the late 20s, into the early 30s with that Saturn influence on the 10th, okay? So that's really, really important because we don't want to miss any of the planetary influences. Okay, so that is spot on. Now, I want to also read her chart from Chandra Lagna, which is moon as the ascendant, because this is like eerily accurate. When we flip the charts, we're making the moon the first house, right? So now the moon is like, this is the first. So imagine like this is the first house, then we start reading it from that, right? So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. This would show issues with the mother, right? We have 2 malefics in the 4th house. That's giving us further information about that debilitated Jupiter in the 4th as well too. So that's very interesting. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, K2 Saturn in the 4th, some issues with the mother, upbringing, like that. 5, 6, 7, Jupiter is 7th from the moon, so she can actually get a good marriage partner, right? Because Jupiter is a great benefic going 7th from the moon, and she's going to end up with someone who's spiritual, religious, philosophical. I'm pretty sure her husband now seems to be pretty religious. He seems old-fashioned. I don't want to make any assumptions, but he probably has his own connections to philosophy, higher power, religion, like that. That's going to be really important for her with Jupiter 7th from the moon, and Jupiter does really well when it's influencing the 7th house or 7th from the moon, so we can predict after some bad initial relationships, marriages like that, she could actually have a really great marriage because of that Jupiter influence 7th from the moon, right? Okay. 7, 8, 9, 10. So then we get to the 10th house from the moon, Chandra Lagna, and then we have Venus with Rahu. Okay, so Venus is a karaka for the arts. It's a karaka for creativity, beauty, luxury. Rahu is the masses, reaching the public, and that's been her whole career, right? It's beauty, it's art, it's fashion, it's luxury. She's done a lot of modeling, a lot of campaigns, a lot of Venus, a lot of perfumes and design and all of that sort of stuff, all of it. And again, that's a karaka for women. So her career is definitely going to have some connection to women and beauty and luxury and the arts, right? And then Rahu is in a very tight conjunction with Venus. So then Rahu is heightening the career, making it reach faraway places. Rahu is success when it gets involved with the 10th house. And basically the way we view Chandra Lagna or moon as the ascendant is it's just giving us further information of what already exists in the natal chart, right? So it's not like we throw away everything we saw in the natal Lagna or ascendant. It's just giving us more context, more information, more that we can pull from so we can get multiple reference points to make sure that what we're seeing is accurate. Okay, so Venus Rahu, 10th from the moon. Now we get a very creative, successful career that can reach the public, reach the masses, can connect to like faraway lands, foreign places, right? And she's obviously touring all over the world, right? Like that. Okay, so I mean, that's it, right? That's the career. Very, very spot on. Okay, so then we can also look to the D9. I like to look at the 10th house of the D9. Not all Vedic astrologers do. Like one of my teachers, James, he pretty much would say he doesn't use the D9 that much unless it's for spouse analysis, but I do like to look at it just to add more context, more information. So in the D9, the 10th ruler is Capricorn, and it's in the 3rd house. So 10th ruler in the third house is performing, the arts, creativity, music, dance, drama, right? And then we can pull up the D10 chart, which is the career chart. And then in the career chart, the 10th ruler is also in the 3rd house, okay? Creativity, music, dance, drama, performing, energy, like that. Okay, so then the 10th ruler is Aquarius in the 3rd house. And what's interesting is we actually get Saturn influence in the 10th house, in the D10 and the D9 and the D1. So when you see something in like multiple charts, there's something really important about that. Okay, so because we get so much Saturn influence with the career in 3 different charts, we could definitely predict that there's also going to be blocks, there's also going to be delays in the career, there's also going to be some issues with the career at certain points as well too. A lot of criticism, right? Saturn is like critique and harshness, like that. Okay. All right. And something else, I know I'm trying to really focus and like lock into a certain point of the chart, which for Lana's chart, there's so much I could say, so much I could pull. I'm trying to really focus on the 10th house, but something I do want to say that I find very fascinating is she has such an interesting ascendant in the way that like she has Ketu really close with Saturn, and Venus does aspect its own sign of Libra, so that's going to give beauty, that's going to give pleasure, creative ability, creative talent, because that Venus is strong aspecting Libra. But also Ketu with Saturn, she is so shy, guys. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Ketu right there on the ascendant with Saturn retrograde, which means Saturn is moving backwards. So it means that Saturn is actually getting closer to Ketu, closer to the ascendant. That is such a shy, introspective sort of conjunction to have in your 1st house. So it's very fascinating that she's reached the level of fame and success that she has, which I think comes from the fact that Saturn is Yogacaraka for Libra ascendant, and the fact that Venus aspects its own sign on the ascendant. That's bringing some good saving grace energy. But oh my goodness, with Saturn Ketu right there on the ascendant, she is going to always be very shy, very introspective, naturally very withdrawn. Like it's going to be very hard or uncomfortable for her to be that person that's performing in front of people. And it's fascinating because she is that way, right? Like it's not her natural state of being to be like performing, and she's not like a Michael Jackson performer. Like Michael Jackson's chart is born for this performative quality because of his like really strong full moon, and he has moon on the 1st house from what I remember, and he also had a strong 3rd house, which is like the performing aspect. But with Ketu Saturn right there on the ascendant, there's a lot of shyness in this chart. The career is big, the career is going to be successful, but when it comes to like her actual personality and her energy that she puts out, very shy, very withdrawn, very sensitive, very spiritual. And Saturn on the ascendant, she's also going to really like hold herself back a lot by nature as well too. So very, very fascinating. But that Venus is really going to help her with like beauty, the arts, creativity, because that's also very tight aspect. Oh my goodness, I just realized Venus is 21 degrees. Her ascendant is 21 degrees. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Oh my goodness, I've actually like never seen that before. You guys are getting like my live reaction with that, so actually Venus is the strongest, tightest aspect onto her first on Libra, which Venus loves, right? So that's like the saving grace of the first house. That's where the fame, that's where the beauty, that's where the luxury, that's where the creativity is coming from, because Venus is literally on the exact degree within 1 degree on the ascendant. Oh my gosh, that's like such a tight degree aspect. Wow. But with that gate through Saturn in the mix, she's also very shy, very introspective, very sensitive, feels things very deeply. And it's very interesting to see that planetary conjunction with someone who is so vastly successful and famous. So again, it's not one, guys. It's not the other. It's not, oh, Venus is on the ascendant, beauty, luxury, that's it. No, there's also Saturn, so she's going to be withdrawn. She's going to feel very responsible. She's going to grow up at a young age. She's going to feel burdened a lot in this lifetime. She's going to feel a lot like her road is a very long, tumultuous path to get there, and she always has to put in so much work. Ketu is there. She's going to be shy, introspective, metaphysical. She's going to have an interest in spirituality, all of that, right? It's all the different planetary influences. Okay. So I thought this was a really fascinating analysis into how we actually look at the 10th house, right? What's influencing it? What's sitting there? What are the signs? What's aspecting which sign? And what's the 10th ruler doing? And then we can also flip it from Chandra Lagna. And then we can also take the D9 chart and the D10 chart to get further information. And the reason I brought up the analysis of the first house at the end is because first house would more so be like fame and how someone is like showing up in the world, right? 10th house is like career, public image. First house is quite literally the appearance and the energy that they put out. So that's more what we look to for like fame aspects as well. All right, and Venus-Rahu conjunction in general, there's going to be so much interest in like fashion, the arts, creativity, romance, love, beauty, desires, all of that. All of that. All right, so let me know what you guys thought about this chart analysis, and if you guys are enjoying this more like pinpointed analysis. I feel like it's really important because I think it really will like drill something in as opposed to like too much information. I feel like the biggest issue with Jyotish or Vedic astrology is it's so much information. Like it's just information overload, and I feel like these videos hopefully pinpoint it and bring it to a more condensed place. All right, so comment down below. Let me know what you guys thought about this video, what you guys think about Lana. Do you guys love her? Do you have mixed feelings? Do you like her music? Let me know. And also, I'm looking forward to just creating a lot more content in the upcoming months. I feel like October, I always get really inspired to create fun, spooky videos. So maybe I'll do some videos that go into some like cool, darker, like psychological taboo stuff or something of that nature. Like maybe I'll do some like 8th house sort of videos as we come into October. And you can always book a personal session in the link in my bio if you want me to essentially do this with your Vedic chart. And comment, like, and subscribe so I can keep making content that you guys enjoy. All right, we will talk soon. Sending all the love. Bye, guys.